Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do something about the squeaky chair. So if you guys watched the video with the modification updates on the WRX, you may have noticed the squeaky chair. And someone actually suggested that I reach out to the company that I bought the Sparco sliding bracket from, which was Import Image Racing. So one of the guys over there, I think his name is Mason, suggested I reach out to Sparco. And Sparco went ahead and sent me a new slider rail. So they thought it was weird that the slider was squeaking and thought they would warranty the item. So I've got a new set of rails to install here today. And I figured we'd go ahead and do that on camera and then kind of talk about some of the challenges you may run into when you're installing a bucket seat or aftermarket seat into the WRX. So I am trying to avoid having to take everything out, but I will cover kind of the steps of the installation. I want to leave the planted seat base, the slider rails, and the side mounts in the car. So the first thing I'm going to do is just remove these 4 hex bolts from the side of the bucket seat and then just kind of tilt the bucket seat back. And one of the reasons why I'm avoiding to do that is because I have the seat belt running through the bucket seat, right? So a lot of guys, they may run the belt over the top, which is a big no-no. That is not safe. That's not going to hold you in your seat. You have to run it through the belt hole on the side, which means you have to unbolt the bottom of the belt from the side of the B-pillar. Okay, so the seat's off, and now I'm going to remove the sliders from the seat base. To install these side mounts onto the sliders, you have to fiddle around to be able to reach into the middle of the slider to tighten down these bolts. So it's easier for me to just take the sliders off the base and then screw with them outside of the car. Okay guys, the side mounts and the sliders are out of the car now, and so what we're looking at is the seat base. Now, if you're looking to install an aftermarket seat in your car, you would begin by removing the 4 bolts that hold the seat to the car, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Careful though, there is a cable underneath the car or underneath the seat. One is going to be for the side impact airbag, and the other is going to be for the seat belt buckle receiver. Before disconnecting the airbag, it's best to disconnect the battery and let the car discharge. Try to turn on the lights, maybe honk the horn, and wait a couple minutes. This yellow connector, that's the SRS airbag connector. To keep the light from coming on, I think you need a resistor in here. Don't remember how many ohms it is. I think it's 3.3, but I will link something in the description of the video so you guys know. The second thing is that this seatbelt receiver has a connector for it, and it knows when the car knows when you have a seatbelt plugged in. That's the seatbelt chime that you hear. So what I did was I went and bought a seatbelt receiver that you would normally install in the back of the car and put on the seat base. For 2 reasons. One, it lets the receiver rotate because the factory one is a metal bracket and it's just rigid. And the second reason is because the bracket is actually very long. It comes up quite high next to the bucket seat. And then what I did was I took the factory one and I mounted it underneath the seat and put a dummy buckle in. The reason why I did that, I did some research, and it seems like, and I could be wrong on this, that if the car does not detect a seatbelt plugged into the receiver, it doesn't deploy the airbags in an accident. And the reason is because it thinks the driver is not buckled safely in. There's some research there that shows that the force of the airbag deploying as the body is moving forward in an accident can cause more harm than good. The airbag's really designed to kind of work there with the person rigid in the seat, which is why your belt buckle has a little explosive in it that goes off and helps tighten the seatbelt in an accident. So because I am in a bucket seat and I do have the seatbelt on, I do want my airbag to go off, and so I don't want to chance it. So instead of doing the little kind of routine disable the seatbelt chime, I went ahead and plugged everything in so that hopefully if I am in an accident, my airbags do go off. Okay, the other thing of note here is that on a planted seat bracket and a VA chassis WRX FTI, I'm using the center mounting points, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've tried the other ones and it just doesn't work for this car. So to save yourself some trial and error time and fitment, just shoot for the center ones. Okay, let's go ahead and move to the slider base. All right guys, here is the slider base. Before we get into it, I just want to say I went out and bought extra hardware for mounting all of this. All of my bolts are either 10.9 or 12.9 in bolt grade, and I am using Nylox, right? So I don't want my nuts to come loose when I'm driving and have the seat suddenly become a problem for me. So Nylox are a good idea to have on your bolts. Okay, so with regards to the slider base, these are Sparco side rails as well as slider rails. Just so you guys can kind of get a head start, I am using on the front the 5th mounting position back, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on the rear 1, 2. That should help you dial in where your seat is in the car with adjustments much quicker instead of having to go through some trial and error. So that should help. I do want to mention I am Asian, so my torso is long for my body, but this seems to give me quite a bit of adjustment for the pedals as well as to the steering wheel. Steering wheels are adjustable in this car, so it's not that big of a deal. The other thing is that, again, mounting the sliders to the side brackets can be a little bit of a challenge because you have to play around with the sliders to reach in there and tighten everything down. It is best to kind of install it all in one go and then install the seat last. That way you're not struggling to kind of tighten things into the car while everything is in the car. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these slider rails and get the new slider rails from Sparco on the side brackets. Just a couple things to note. That is the bottom of the seatbelt bracket that I was talking about for the B-pillar. Make sure you disconnect that and run that through the seatbelt hole on your bucket seat. Do not run the seatbelt over the top of the bucket seat. I cannot stress how dangerous that is. I went ahead and cut the carpet there, but you know, it's up to you guys. Do as you please. It just makes it easier to bolt everything back together. One other thing to note, if you do plan on doing the passenger seat to have like a matching pair, I personally didn't because I do want my passenger to have the side impact airbag. If you do plan on doing it, the same thing applies with the seatbelt. The bracket, you likely need to get one from the rear of the car because it's a metal bracket in the front and it's quite long. There is also an occupancy sensor inside of the seat that the driver's side does not have. Naturally, the car just assumes that to be driving the car, there's a person in the driver's seat. But for the occupancy sensor, there is a small sensor that sits on top of the foam underneath inside of the seat. And you can do one of two things. You can butcher the seat that you have to remove the occupancy sensor, or you can try to go find this base foam with the sensor already online on eBay and then remove it from there. You know, a lot of guys will try to remove it from the seat and end up damaging it. So it is a sensitive component. Just be aware before you endeavor down that road and plan on putting a bucket seat on the passenger side of the car. Okay, so the sliders and the side mount brackets are back in the car. Everything is not torqued down snug and tight. It's actually loose, and it's loose because everything has a little bit of play side to side on it, and you can actually kind of tilt the seat as it's facing forward, like left or right. So you want to play with that until it's comfortable for you. On top of that, this B pillar here, depending on the type of seat that you have, sometimes the kind of shoulder blade wings that come out can hit this. And so you want to double check those wings to the B pillar for clearance. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do now. So the seat's in. It's mounted hard to the side mounts. But I want you to see this. So the seat base is slotted left and right. So there's some give here, and you can adjust the seat side to side You can even tilt it a little bit or twist it on the seat base. And you want to watch out for this side bolster because it will hit this B-pillar. Now the seat has some give to it, right? So if you push on it against the B-pillar, it'll give and slide back. Usually at this point, I like to get in the car and get a feel of where I want my seat at. So go ahead, hop in here, and you know, do I want to be a little to the left? Do I want to be a little to the right? Let's see. Looks like my side bolster here is blocking. I think I can move up a little bit. So maybe right about there. Check my heel toe. This looks pretty good. Maybe one more. Oh, that's a little too close. So this is going to be it. So at this point, I will likely go and bolt this down, and hopefully it doesn't move. So we'll give that a shot here. All right, seat's been installed and torqued everything down. Feels tight, doesn't squeak, so I'm a happy camper. Thank you to Sparco for sending me a new slider base or slider rails and warranting the product there. Great customer support. If you guys have questions on the installation of an aftermarket seat or anything I've done here, like maybe the resistor or the little trick with the seatbelt buckle, feel free to ask in the comments and I am happy to answer them. So until next time, thanks a lot for tuning in and you guys have a great day. Bye.